Life without Nico Collins is officially official following Nico Collins being put on injured reserve. Shout out to everyone who joined us yesterday on the special breaking news edition of S&L with myself and Cody Stoots. And let's just get into it because Nico Collins is not the only guy that's missing right now for this Texans team. It's a very, very, very crowded injury report on Wednesday. Both of your starting tackles were out. Your starting running back, Joe Mixon, was out. Dameon Pierce was back. Kamari Lassiter, kind of a surprising name on the injured list. Jimmy Ward, not so much. We don't anticipate him playing. Outside of Nico Collins, what was the thing that stuck out the most? I think we're going to agree on this when it came to the injury report.
I mean, it's going to be, to me, it's going to be Kamari Lassiter. He's played basically 100% of the snaps for this team. There's no real backup that you feel, really decent about when it comes to Kamari Lassiter. And him not playing, it being a shoulder injury, I mean, it certainly feels like something that can keep him out for more than just one day of practice. I don't expect for when we roll up to practice here on Thursday for him to be out there. So Lassiter, that's a big concern for me because there's not an adept replacement that you feel good about, and his backups aren't good, and I don't believe it's one of those things where he's going to be back. Like, you could maybe see one of these tackles back. You could maybe see some of these other guys back before the end of the week. I don't believe he's going to be back this week.
Yeah, I don't know. I talked to him after the game, and he seemed fine. But a lot of times that's just kind of the way it is. The concerning thing is you've been able to play without really using any other corners. So I don't know what it looks like. Yesterday I was talking about it, and people were asking, like, who is it? I think it's going to be a committee. I don't think you have one guy who's going to go out there and play 100% of the snaps or whatever Kamari Lassiter has been playing. So I think it's going to be a committee approach. I also think it's going to have to be the defensive line performing better to where you're able to mask whatever weaknesses there are there. I think they're going to have to pick up the slack because I don't anticipate Derek Stingley getting thrown at too often. I think whoever the hell the corner is, if it's not Kamari Lassiter, that guy's going to be picked on. And look, man, like it's impressive what the Texans have been able to do playing two linebackers and two corners, but it's not really sustainable. So we'll see. D'Amico Ryans told me yesterday and told the media that he's confident in the corner depth. We'll see. But yeah, Kamari Lassiter being on the injury report, not good.
D'Angelo Ross is probably the guy that's going to get the first crack at it with maybe a shot that Kadar Holman gets a shot at it as well. And the last time they put D'Angelo Ross on the field, Amari Cooper ran right by him for a huge touchdown in the Browns game last year. So this is not a dire situation as if it was, say, next week versus Green Bay when they've got a lot of receivers and they got a quarterback that can get it to them. Like, it's a rookie and it's the Patriots receiving group, but it is not good that the guy that's played 100% of the snaps to this point basically is not going to be available to you when that's the way you've operated your defense. So maybe it changes the way they play stuff on the back end with the safeties as well. So the ripple effect and the ramifications.
They're not going to have Jimmy either. So I don't know. Yeah, they're not going to have Jimmy either, and that's probably going to be for a while.
Yeah, so you're gonna see Kalen Bullock and Eric Murray back there, and then Derek Stingley not getting thrown at on one side, and then Kamari Lassiter's replacement, whoever that may be, the first guy's going to get the crack at it, I guess, is going to be D'Angelo Ross, but they also added Kadar Holman from the practice squad of the Ravens, so that one's concerning. That one's concerning. What's the one that we both believe Mixon's not going to play this week, right?
I wouldn't dismiss it. Dismiss it. I don't even look at the tackles. Wednesday, I'm more surprised if Tunsil is practicing on Wednesday than I am if he's not, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I'm not even really looking at the tackles, but I wouldn't dismiss Mixon. I think it's possible he doesn't, but I'm not completely dismissing it. The other one that's weird, and I think it's fair to mention, because sometimes there's like policies where you can't say stuff, but the reality of the situation is, and I think we need to keep a close eye on this, Kenyon Green was out there during open media. So he was out there during open media, and then all of a sudden you saw him going back in.
He was dressed and did not practice.
He
Yeah.
was out. He
And
was
then
no, he yeah, and I saw him running drills. I saw him holding the bag and everything and doing normal drills. And then all of a sudden he left and it said that he
yep.
didn't participate. So I have eyes. There's
Yeah.
open media availability. I even asked you because you were doing the checklist because it was when we realized Lassiter wasn't practicing because me and you really do try to see who is and isn't out there and not wait for official word and get the people official word. I said, is 76 out there? He's been banged up. He was out there. He was
And then
doing
he left.
drills. Then all of a sudden, he was leaving on a golf cart in the parking lot. I mean, it's not like I saw anything. He was in a parking lot. So I'm keeping an eye on Kenyon Green because when they say he didn't practice and they say knee, and I saw his ass out there before, I don't know what happened. But to say DNP, he was out there. He was out there. He was stretching. He was doing everything.
That the fact that he did not start, or the fact that he started practice dressed, was there, and then did not participate as the official designation. That feels like he got hurt in practice. That I'm speculating.
He's been hurt, and he's been hurt the whole time. Like he's been playing pretty banged up. It seems like. So that is interesting to me. Just being out there and having boots on the ground.
So that'd be Kendrick Green as his fill-in at left guard. And look, Kenyon hasn't been playing really well, so Kendrick Green might have been getting an opportunity with or without the injury, but with the injury and him getting a DNP after being dressed out there warming up,
Running
drills.
drills.
That's not good for Kenyon Green's status for Sunday.
So I think that is something to keep an eye on. Like I think there's some people who didn't even notice that he was out there, and then they just said it just says DMP, and it's like, oh okay, nah, brother, he was out there, he was running drills.
Yeah, because we had to do the checklist of all the O linemen, and you're watching, you're like, there's no 71, there's no 78, and it's like 76 is out there. Okay, there's 69, nice.
Yeah,
and then there's 54, that's the backup center. There's 70, there's the starting center.
What happened? I mean, it wasn't he snooping around. I was just getting in my car. Like, yeah, he's like that's what happened. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Typically
guys walk back. Like they walk back over the bridge back to NRG Stadium,
they don't go through the parking lot
unless there's a cart, there's an injury, and such like that.
Yeah, so let's keep an eye on that. The offensive line, the tackles, we'll keep an eye on.
Okay, guys, good news me now, please. Do we have any?
All right, you want
Dameon Pierce practice, but Landry will tell you that's not good news.
Yeah, here is the good news. Dameon Pierce practice, and we had this conversation yesterday, and we're talking about replacing Nico Collins. And I'm just going to throw scenarios at you, and I want you to tell me how realistic you think these are at the possibility of them being effective.
Okay,
and let's just go 1 to 5. Like 1 to 5, how confident are you that this can be effective?
1 being most effective, or 5 being most effective?
5 being most effective. How confident are you? Confidence level. The run game without Mixon picks up. How confident are you in that? If Mixon does not go, how confident are you that the run game can pick up? And maybe we're grading on a curve. I don't know.
Professor Stoots does not grade on the curve. So,
okay. So how confident are you that the run game can pick up without Mixon?
1.
Okay.
I'm not confident in it. I'm interested to see Dameon Pierce just because he's something different than what they've been doing, but I don't believe that he's going to just fix a bunch of things. So I'm going to go 1. I don't know how you couldn't be at anything but a 1 on this.
I would say 1, but I would say I'm intrigued to see if they just try the one thing that they haven't tried, which is giving Dameon Pierce the heavy workload, assuming that he's good to go. And I think people kind of bought into this yesterday because they've tried everything without Joe Mixon, hasn't worked. Everything except Dameon Pierce getting the majority of the workload. A lot of that has to do with availability. He hasn't been available, but that might be something that they just need to try because they've tried everything else and nothing else seems to work. I think it's at least worth trying. Am I confident that it's going to look good? No.
Correct. Yeah, like that's the approach that they need to take because we've seen what primarily a Cam Akers situation looks like. We've seen what primarily a Daria Gumbawale situation looks like with Cam Akers sprinkled in. Like, I guess the hope would be if Bobby Slowick gets a little lucky and Pierce gives you a little juice and you mix in Cam Akers and then you're only throwing the ball to Dare, like I guess you can sustain it for a game, but belief is low.
I respect someone who can wake and bake. Shout out to Derek, who had some
high-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets. Did you know what that was?
with his eggs. Either. Yeah, everybody loves a little marijuana with some eggs. He says he believes Damian was much better than Singletary last season. They just never gave him the same opportunity.
Well, that's just patently false. They gave him too many opportunities. They couldn't run the football in Atlanta with him as the running back. That's just not Derek. That's not you're the only person that feels that way. We appreciate you watching. Be safe when you're operating heavy machinery, because you might be under the influence of something.
Yeah. I don't know about that. What about the run game picking up with Mixon? Because now this has been a thing where I think fairly people have pushed back, and we're trying to find ways to replace the production of the most productive receiver in the NFL. But this is one of the things where I think people fairly have pushed back and said, you guys sound like you're just assuming that the run game is going to be awesome when Mixon comes back. I agree. I agree that it's not a given, but I think it's the only hope. And I'm confident they can have an effective run game with Mixon, assuming that he's healthy. I'm confident it can be effective.
I'm going to put this on a 4 on a 1 to 5 confidence scale. Like you're going to need to run the football better when Joe Mixon returns for a variety of reasons, but it becomes even more important because your passing game ticks down a little bit without Nico Collins. So you've got to be able to run the football. I believe Mixon's going to be a significant upgrade over what they've been putting out there.
Well, and I was going that is a take right there.
When I say significant
that is a take.
Yeah, when I say significant upgrade, I mean they're going to operate like a real NFL rushing offense, which is not what they've been doing. It's like significant upgrade would give you the ability to be average at running the football. Like Cam Akers and Daria Gumbawale have combined for as many yards as Joe Mixon had through 1.5 games played. Like that's how much better he is. So, it might sound
very confident. So
I'm
5.
very confident.
So 5.
I said 4, I said
4. How about 4 or 5?
How about 4.4?
Okay, 4.4. There we go. Tank Dell breaks out 1 to 5. Confidence level with Nico out. Tank Dell breaks out
2.5.
You're not confident. You don't think Tank Dell can fill the void. What is your why are you at 2.5?
I just wonder if the way Dell was successful last year and the way they used him last year, if defenses are just content to basically not give them that opportunity. Don't let him get deep. Don't let him win, 12 yards down the field on the out route. And they just take that away, and you got to figure out a different way to get him going. And they haven't figured that out yet. And so that, with no Nico Collins targets, they've got to go somewhere. I feel like most of them are going to go to Stefon Diggs, but a lot of them need to go to Tank Dell to see if you can get things going. And the thing about Tank, I would say, is part of it's just, hey, rip it and throw it to him, even if you feel like he's not that open, because he'll get open. Like
is he a open when he's not open guy though?
Depending on the type of route, yes. I mean, like if some guy looks like he's blanketed him, like no. But if he's in the middle of the route and you just throw it to the spot, I believe he's going to be there, beat the guy there.
I think Tank breaks out. I'm pretty confident in this. I'll say 4. I'll say that Tank does his thing. So I'll say 4, and I think he can run intermediate routes too. I don't necessarily think he's like a one-trick deep pony, like some do.
The advanced stats would tell you that the Tank gets pretty decent separation on his defenders, and he gets open. He's just not getting the ball for whatever reason.
All right. The wideouts 3 down step up, confidence level 1 to 5. They step up. And could I interest you in a stat?
Yes.
Wide receivers not named Stefon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell right now. They have 12 catches through 5 games. So 12 catches total through 5 games between Hutchinson, Woods, and Mechie. They have 12 receptions. That's where they're at right now, which is not, I mean, that's not too crazy to think about, but that's where they're at. I want you to answer this 1 to 5 confidence level, and then I want you to tell me who steps up.
I mean, one. Like one, and I guess Xavier Hutchinson. And they just haven't thrown the football to these guys. Like, how am I supposed to know anything about them? I haven't thrown the football to them in regular season football. Yeah, you can do all you want in training camp and the preseason, but they haven't thrown the football to them. I mean, 6 targets for Xavier Hutchinson, 5 targets for Robert Woods, and 1 target for John Mechie. That's it.
Yeah.
And then they haven't even thrown the ball to Steven Sims.
I don't think this is particularly a deep wide receiver group. I think it's really, really good top end, but like as far as just depth, like there's 1 to 6. I actually think it's kind of overrated from that perspective. And that's not, I think Xavier Hutchinson can become a pretty good player. He's still in his 2nd year, and he was a day 3 pick, and he's developing, and he's improving. Everything you want from Xavier Hutchinson is happening, but I don't think this wide receiver core 1 to 6 is as deep as it gets talked about.
It annoys me to hear the D word thrown around with this wide receiver room, because it's not like I understood
D word
depth. I understand what they were, what we were all thinking was going to be depth when training camp started, and they had the 1, 2, 3 that you knew about, and then Noah Brown was going to be the 4, and then it was this nice fight for 5 and 6 to be on the roster. But then we went through the preseason. John Mechie showed up for 1 week. Robert Woods showed up for 2 days. Xavier Hutchinson showed up for 4 days. And Noah Brown's not on the team anymore. Like, the depth is the Diggs, Dell, Collins trio. The depth is not the 1 through 7 of this wide receiver room, now 1 through 6. The depth, that's not the depth for this team. So, hey, if Xavier Hutchinson steps up, I'll be one of the most shocked people around. If John Mechie steps up, I'll be one of the most shocked people around, because I don't have a lot of belief that those guys can even turn into a consistent option in Nico Collins' absence.
Clayton on the chat says overrated compared to what team? Look, man, like there's not a lot of 1 through 3s that I would take. This is the best way I can put this. There's not a lot of 1 through 3s that I can that I would take over the Texans 1 through 3. There's maybe a handful, and it might even be less than that. But if you just told me the 4 through 6, like if we're just looking at 4 through 6s and we go around the league, I think there's probably a large chunk of teams that I would rather have their wide receivers 4 through 6. I'd feel pretty comfortable in saying that. Now that can kind of be a crapshoot, but the way that it was being talked about, and we're on these Texan streets all the time. John Mechie could start anywhere else, and it's not really that deep of a wide receiver group. And I think losing Noah Brown, regardless of whether he could or couldn't stay in the lineup, a guy who was your best receiver twice last year, and I know Noah's hurt. I'm just saying last year, like when you looked at this wide receiver core, you looked at it and you said, okay, Noah Brown's pushed back in the depth chart. So now Noah Brown's your 4th receiver or whatever, or 5th receiver, and you don't have to rely on Noah Brown. He's gone. So you can't point to any one of these guys and say, this guy carried the load when Nico was out. This guy carried the load when Tank was out. So I think your depth, your overall wide receiver depth that we talked about in camp before Brown was gone, it's just kind of taking a hit. And look, they can go out there and they can prove us all wrong. Maybe it's an opportunity thing, but I just don't think 4 to 6. This is a very deep wide receiver core, as deep as we anticipated it was going to be before you got rid of Noah.
The late July hope of depth has not been paid off to the level that most expected it.
Yeah. And that's just I mean, a lot of times when you get to 4 to 6, it's probably not going to be
everybody's 4 to 6 sucks for the most part. That's like there's probably a little bit more confidence on some teams for their 4 to 6, but everybody's 4 to 6 sucks for the most part. We were going through it in the preseason about how many teams 4 to 6 stunk.
Yeah, I mean, like the 49ers right now, like they're 4 to 6. Like they got Ricky Pearsall coming back. They got a 1st round pick coming back as their 4th. Like there's a lot of teams that have better 4 through 6. I think from the Texans. Y'all can do the exercise if you'd like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I would love to see the exercise. I just don't think the 4 to 6 is that deep. I don't think wide receivers are an overwhelmingly deep position here. Next option when it comes to picking up Nico Collins, the defense picks it up. The defense plays at a great level, and they play like one of the better defenses in the NFL during this 4-week stretch. My confidence level in this is even without Lassiter, I think it's a 4, because I think the D line, especially when you factor in that you're going to get Danico Autry next week, probably, we think, maybe, possibly, most likely. You put what Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter are doing right now, which is winning their battles, just not finishing the sacks, and you put what D'Amico's been able to do. I think that the defense picking it up and playing at a very, very high level and kind of picking up Nico Collins and picking up that void, I'm very confident in this. I'll put it somewhere between 4 and 5 on the 5 scale.
I'm with you in that area, between 4 and 5. They're going to get home on the sacks. I mean, look, I understand people look at the sack numbers and they're like, well, where are the sacks? I mean, the Texans sack percentage, they're 7th. Overall sacks for the team, they're 8th in the league. Like, I understand Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter don't have the big sack numbers. The team's 8th in the league. Like, and they're, let's see here, they're 5 off the number 2 spot. Like, the sack numbers are there as a team. Like, that's now what's not there that it felt like they constantly ran into last year were turnovers. They haven't forced as many turnovers as I believe we all thought there was going to be for this team. So they got to get this turnover number up, and that's going to help the offense tremendously. You can put them in some advantageous fields and things like that, or maybe even score one day for the defense. But the turnovers show up, and they're going to be, doing a good job helping the offense sustain while Nico Collins is gone. And you think about a rookie quarterback. You think about what Green Bay does a lot with putting the ball in the air. You think about the Colts. If Anthony Richardson's back, that's turnover central. And then the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, he'll throw you one too. So, I mean, there's opportunities here in these next 4 games for this defense.
Who's going to take advantage of those would be the real question. Who's going to?
Well, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to move the ball when you only got to go 60 yards instead of 80 or 90 yards.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that starts this week. I think the defense has got to pick up the load. Next scenario, 1 to 5, the tight ends produce more. Right now, Texans tight ends, I think they have a combined 20 catches, and I'm even counting Brevin Jordan's too. There's 20 catches. I think 14 from Schultz, 4 from Stover, and 2 from Brevin Jordan, who is no longer playing this year. He's out for the season. So you have 20 catches in 5 games from the tight end position. I'm actually more optimistic about this than when we look at the wide receivers as far as production. Now, Stover or Quintariano or whoever is going to have to block maybe to let Schultz be able to go out. If you have your starting tackles, perhaps that's not as big of an issue. But I'm actually confident that we see a little bit more production from Dalton Schultz. I think we actually got a taste of it against Buffalo, some big third downs from Schultz. So my confidence level in this is a 4. I think the tight ends definitely produce more than they have in the past game.
I really liked what Schultz was able to do last game. I mean, I don't think there was even a target headed his way in the first half. And he comes out there in the second half, puts all his production together, key third downs. He and CJ Stroud are in tune on third downs. There's some big third downs that Schultz converted for that team last week. And I believe that he's going to be certainly used more, especially with your point of freeing him up because you've got some other guys that can go in there and do a little bit of dirty work for him. So free him up to go run some routes and get open.
Yeah, I think Schultz is.
Plus, I mean, Team Quintariano's back, so your guy, maybe he's going to be the key.
He's looking good, man. I mean, I don't know if he's active on Sunday or what. He seems ready to go. He's looking good. He's looking ready to go. So we'll see how that.
He told you
that goes. He knows the playbook.
He told you. He started reading the playbook, and next thing you know, boom, it just kind of all fell back into place.
He said he knew the playbook. Smooth move, so he's not stressed out. His girl was already here, so we'll see. We'll see what that looks like with Quintariano and company, and then the receivers. We'll check that out as well. Practice resumes today. I would
Well,
say
hold on. You left out one of the biggest options on this team for replacing production.
What's that?
Christian McDare. Dare Gumbawale is the third leading receiver on this team. Christian McDare is going to get this done.
You think
155 yards, 155 yards receiving in 5 games.
So you think we're going to get even more Dare?
Hey, dump it to Dare. Dump it to Dare. Christian McDare.
I look. I think we maxed out our Dare last week. 15 carries is a lot.
Dare to Dare.
God bless him, but
Dare to Dare. DTD. Dare to Dare.
So we're getting back to practice today.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday practice injury reports are always kind of they kind of err on the side of rest. So today could perhaps be more telling. Maybe we get some guys returning. We'll obviously be keeping an eye on the offensive line, Mixon, all of that. Like if Mixon comes, I think if he ends up practicing, I think that's
Mixon. What
comes out to the field. Then I think we end up getting a little bit more confidence from the fan base, a little less uncertainty because Mixon is there.
Joe Mixon practicing today would be one of the bigger, oh, look, he's practicing boosts of the season to this point. And it'd be way bigger than the random Friday that he showed up and everyone was like, oh, he's going to be back from Buffalo. And then he hadn't practiced since then.
It wasn't even Buffalo.
Well, yeah, it was Friday before Jacksonville. And you could you're like, okay, maybe he's not going to play Jacksonville, but he'll be back for Buffalo, right? And then he didn't even practice last week. And you're like, oh, he's not playing for Buffalo.
So we're also going to hear from Bobby Slowick. What do you want to hear from old Bobby Slowick today?
I mean, he's gonna have sort of the same line that Tank Dell had. Hey, we're gonna go play football. Hey, a lot of things don't change. Okay, yeah, it's tough not having Nico, but we're gonna do this and do that. He'll have confidence in the backup wide receivers. Like, I don't know that there's anything that. I mean, I wish he'd walk up there and say, "Hey, everybody hates me, but we're number one in passing." It's not going to stay that way.
Hate him.
Not everybody, but hyperbole.
Well, I want to know: are they still close? Like, are they still close in the run game? No, I'm serious. Like, are we still close? Like, it's another week. Are we still close, Bobby? Like, that's my question. Like, are we still close? That's 100% my question.
If he has Mixon at practice today, he's going to be like, "Yeah, we're real close."
Yeah, are we still close in the run game? I mean, I think it's a fair question. Is the run game still close? Not much production. Is it still close?
3.1 yards per carry over the last 3 games with running backs. So, I mean, that'd be the worst yards per carry for a team in 10 years, over 10 years.
Yeah, and I just wonder, like, with all these things that they're trying, do they try to find someone to bring in? Like, what are we doing? I mean, it's unfortunate that, like, what does it say about it has to be a system or personnel thing, and hopefully it's a personnel thing because we've seen the system effective with the run game. Like, what are we doing here, Bobby?
Well, it's part of the annoyance is it's supposed to be from that Shanahan tree, and those and for a large portion of those guys, it has been plug and play in that Shanahan style. And even in its sister system, the McVay tree, they plug guys in there and it works. Like it doesn't matter where they came from. Like Aaron Jones is more talented than a lot of guys they've had out there, but it looked good in Minnesota right away with Aaron Jones, and obviously it's good with Aaron Jones in Green Bay. But Kyron Williams goes from draft pick to really good running back. It feels like whoever runs the ball in Miami is successful. Jordan Mason, who nobody's ever heard of, replaces McCaffrey. He's ripping off 100 a game, 5 yards of carry. And it's not as seamless here with these guys. So that's part of the annoyance is, hey, I know Slowick is quick to tell you, yeah, it's from the same tree, but we're all different.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
no kidding. I see that.
maybe you look at somebody else's paper every now and then. Just cheat off the smart kid. Yeah. Like Landry did in all of his schooling.
Every time. Every damn time, no doubt. Shout out to Mr. Patterson for turning the other cheek. Stoots, see you at practice. Nico Collins, life without Nico Collins is going to be tough. What are you most confident in? Y'all let us know what y'all are most confident in. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like the video. Most importantly, always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Did you do the Debo breakdown at 10:30 last night?
We just touched on the hypothetical. We didn't do the money. Cap wouldn't do it. Obviously, they're going to have to do some gymnastics when it comes to if that would happen. Nobody wants that contract. So there was that.
I think Cap kind of gave it the thumbs up when I was talking to him about it.
Yeah, they would have to do a little bit of gymnastics. He would be your second best running back and maybe your third best receiver.
Maybe. Okay.
Maybe second. I don't know.
Because I saw people in the chat asking about the Debo breakdown. So 10:30 last night, you can catch Landry breaking it down.
Shout out to Gustavo. Yeah, I think that Debo would be nice here. But it happens. You're not a fan.
They ain't gonna be picking high enough to get Ashton Genty, and I would love Debo here. So,
well, I don't know. Running backs are kind of devalued, so who knows?
He's going top 15.
Yeah, well, running backs are kind of devalued, so who knows?
I mean, that's fine. This one ain't gonna be devalued.
Don't threaten me with a good time when it comes to the running backs.
All right, eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Follow Landry on Twitter for the practice reports. Follow me on Twitter for the practice reports, and we'll see you on YouTube soon.